Okay, what do you wish other people knew and understood? That this whole process is not just happy, happy, joy, joy. It is fun. It's definitely fun to see progress. It's hard when your weight doesn't change or doesn't change much in any given week, but I've learned to deal with that just fine and not get discouraged. But it's there's a lot of emotional things that you have to deal with, especially for people like me who had self-esteem at their larger size, and your body is drastically changing even when it's hard for you to see it. You know it's happening, and part of your identity, whether you want to admit it or not, is wrapped up in who you were at that size. And it's really something that you have to deal with because your identity is changing too. Um, and that's very confusing and very scary. And I really hope that any of you who are undergoing this or considering undergoing it will consider counseling. I think counseling for if you happen to have an eating disorder, doing lots of counseling for that before surgery, and then continuing counseling after surgery is probably one of the best things you can do. It's definitely like the counseling I had before has definitely made coping with this so much easier. Like, I don't know how I would have coped before that. And doing counseling now, even though it's with a different person because I'm in a different country, has been just incredibly useful. Like, even more so than I thought it would be. I sort of thought I was going to do it just for like, like I didn't really feel like I needed all that much help, but I underestimated the changes that go along with the weight loss, the emotional changes. So, um, okay. Last question, I promise. I know this is long. All right, so what are you eating now? What are you drinking now? What are your exercise goals? It really varies day to day. I keep it depends on what I'm in the mood for. There are common like go-to items that we keep in the fridge to grab. Breakfast almost every morning for me is no sugar added yogurt with macadamia power food, which is basically a really like healthy sounding name for what is essentially nuts and seeds. But yeah, it's sort of a muesli made of nuts and seeds. Has like a lot of good fats in it, has some fiber, and some calories that I need. So, because I'm still having to work to get to 1,000 calories, not nearly as hard as I used to, but I still do have to work for it. Other things we keep in the fridge to grab: poached eggs, many types of cheeses, tuna salad. And then I make little roll-ups, like depending on how hungry I am. I do like a piece of deli ham or a piece of Swiss, and then usually there's some like cream cheese inside to add even more calories and fat and protein. And then if I'm hungry, like really hungry, if I feel hungry, and like hungry for me is not like it was before, like hungry for me like it was before never happens. But if I feel like I want to eat more than that, I should say, then I add a pickle spear, like, and wrap it all around that. So, oh, and it has to be a dill pickle spear, and we actually have to import them from the US. I'm going to sound so high maintenance here. I'm not, I swear. But I've always loved dill pickle spears, and you can't really get those here. And the ones labeled dill pickle spears still don't taste like the ones in the US. So, so we do get those through through a company that imports from the US. Yeah, so basically I'm focusing on things high in protein, low in carbs, and calorically dense enough to help me meet my goals. And then every week we make 3 to 4 low-carb recipes that we then use for lunches and dinners. And typically out of one meal, we'll get at least 2 dinners and a lunch for me. Sometimes much more than that. It depends on the recipe. My goals for the day haven't changed too much since I started. Under 50 grams of carbs a day. I actually bumped that up from 40. I find that my weight loss hasn't changed in either direction since doing that, and I'm not eating any processed refined carbs. I'm not eating pasta or rice or like I do eat low carb bread sometimes. But yeah, for the most part, I'm not eating anything like that. But I like dairy, and like yogurt has carbs. Um, and a lot of the things that are also protein heavy sometimes have carbs in them too. So it depends on what you're eating. And then I aim for 60 grams of protein a day, which I get from food. I don't supplement with a protein shake unless I have no other choice, but that hasn't happened in weeks now, so very happy about that. And the only day I haven't made my goals was yesterday, and I was not feeling like eating yesterday, and plus I was like out and about running around, and that makes it harder. I always pack a couple of protein bars, take a bottle of water with me, but it's hard when you're walking around to really be swigging water the whole time. I need to get better at that. I need to work at that. Oh, speaking of that, and I'm still staying between 1,000 and 12,000 calories, and I don't limit fat. I do not like low-fat diets. Fat makes you feel satiated, and low-fat products often have more sugar added to them to compensate for the lack of flavor. So if you're on a low-carb diet, you don't want to be eating low-fat too, typically. So low-fat's not something I do. As to what I drink water. That's really all I drink. I about 75% of the time drink it plain, and the other 25% of the time I use what Aussies call diet cordial, and this is actually just something that's come to Australia. If you haven't seen it yet and you're Aussie, look in your local Woolworths, Coles, one of them probably has it. At least they do here in Sydney. I was very excited to see these because before the last couple months these haven't existed here. These little, and in the US we have Mio and Crystal Light in little squeezy things. And I actually had my lovely, wonderful in-laws, like, they actually sent me a whole bunch of them, like a whole bunch of different flavors, just so I could keep drinking water. They're like the best. Yeah, there aren't nearly as many flavor options, but at least it's something. And I've actually gotten to where most of the flavors taste too sweet to me now. Gasp. So the lemon works well because it's a little bit more tart. Oh, and I actually laughed because I was like, finally, Australia gets this. And then I looked at the back and it was like, made in the USA. Of course it was. Okay. And for the exercise goals that this person asked about, my exercise goals are to be able to exercise. I mean, right now, walking 2 to 3 miles 3 times a week or so for errands in the city is doing the trick for me. When that gets to be really easy or something, I'll have to find some other way to get some additional exercise. I can't swim at the moment. I'm dealing with a medical issue that won't let me swim. So I can't do that. But because of my knees, I can't do a lot of other things either, like the perfect storm. So I'm really looking forward to getting more of this weight off in the hopes it'll help my knees, and which it seems to be. And like maybe doing some treadmill or some elliptical. So that is it. If you've made it this far, you are a trooper. All right, I will see you guys next week with hopefully just one video instead of 5. All right, bye.